This lesson is going to be on slope-intercept form, and it's going to include graphic linear lines. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M represents the slope of a line, and b represents the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So first we've got some lines, and we want to label what the slope and the y-intercept are. So the slope is always the guy with the x. So the slope here is 5, and the y-intercept is -3. For right now, that's all we're going to do. So for number 2, my slope is the number with the x, and my y-intercept is the constant. Number 3, a little different because he's missing. Remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Slope is always with the x, so that's what this is because it's with the x. What it's missing is the b. So my slope is a -1/2, and my b is 0. Remember, your y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and if b is 0, it just means it crosses at the origin. Now, number 4 and number 5 are different. Number 4 has a y, but it does not have an x. And number 5 has an x, and it does not have a y. So this guy, number 4, we just say he's kind of weird. Number 5, he is our super freak. He is super weird. So for number 4, remember your slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So this 3 is not your slope because he does not have an x. That 3 is your b. He is your constant, your y-intercept. Your slope for this problem is a 0 because you could write this as y equals 0x plus 3. And then if you remember from when we talked about slope, when you have a slope of 0, it's just a horizontal line. Now number 5 is super weird because we cannot get him into y equals mx plus b form because he doesn't even have a y. So this one, because he's so different, his slope is undefined and his y-intercept is also undefined. These two always go undefined hand in hand. It is always when you have x equals a number. We'll explain what that means in terms of a graph in a little bit. Now number 6, I still want the slope and the y-intercept, but this is not in y equals mx plus b form. So we have to do that first. So to solve for y, first thing I'm going to do is subtract 2x. So -3y. Now when I get over here, since it's y equals mx plus b, I want my x term first. So I'm going to write -2x plus 12. Then to continue to solve for y, I need to divide by -3. So I'm going to divide by -3, but when I get to the right-hand side, I'm going to divide each individual term by -3 instead of one big -3. These are going to cancel, and I get y equals -2 over -3 is a positive 2/3 x, and a positive 12 divided by -3 is a -4. Now it's in y equals mx plus b form, so I can very easily see that my slope is a 2/3 and my y-intercept is a -4. Number 7, to solve for y. First thing we're going to do is subtract the 4x. Be careful because it leaves you with a -y equals, again I want my x term first, so -4x plus 3. I need to get rid of this negatives. It's kind of like a -1, so I'm going to divide everybody by a -1. Y equals positive 4x minus 3. My slope here is a 4, and my y-intercept is a -3. Number 8, I'm solving for y. I have two things I need to move. I need to move the x, and I need to move the positive 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract my x. So -2y plus 6 equals -x. I'm not going to put the plus 0. My next step is to move the 6, so I'm going to subtract 6. Put my x first. And my last step is to divide by -2. Negative 1 divided by negative 2 is a positive 1/2 x. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 is a positive 3. So my slope is the 1/2, and my y-intercept is a 3. Okay, so now we're going to take that information and we're going to apply it to actually graphing. So here I'm flat out giving you what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. Okay, to graph a line, you always go to your y-intercept first. Then you do the slope. So your first step is always to go to your y-intercept. If it's a y-intercept, then it's where it crosses the y-axis. That's the vertical axis. So this crosses at 4. So I go up to 4 and I put a dot. From there, I need to do my slope. Now m is negative 2. We talked about it when we talked about slope. When you have a whole number, it's the same thing as over 1. So from my 4, I'm going to go down 2 because it's negative and right 1. And then because I have a hard time drawing a straight line, I'm going to do it again. Down 2, right 1. You can go again if you want to. You really only need 2 points. But I have found that the more points I have, the easier it is for me to draw a straight line. And as you can tell, I still struggle with that. Number 10. Okay, so I do my y-intercept first. So I'm on my y-axis, I'm going down to negative 3, and I put a dot. My slope is 1/3, so from this dot, I go up 1 because it's positive, and right 3. I'm going to go again, up 1, right 3. You could go again if you wanted to. Remember that you always run to the right. Number 11, my y-intercept is a 2, so I go up to 2, and I put a dot. My slope is 0. You can't rise 0 and run. You just need to know that when you have a slope of 0, it's always going to be a horizontal line. He's not the weird one. Well, he is the weird one. Your 2 weird ones are when your slope is 0 and when your slope is undefined. So when your slope is 0, remember you can stand on it. So that's why your slope is 0. It exists. You can stand on it. It is not undefined. All right, number 12. So now I want you to graph it, and I'm just giving you an equation. Not only am I giving you an equation, it's not in slope-intercept form. The first thing we have to do is solve for y, because I need to get it into y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to subtract the 3x, and I get 2y equals, again I want the x first, negative 3x plus 4. And I'm going to divide by 2. Y equals, I can't reduce a negative 3 over 2. And then 4 over 2 is a 2. I'm going to state my slope and my y-intercept. My slope is a negative 3 over 2. My y-intercept is a 2. So now to graph, I go up to 2 and put a dot. And then my slope is negative 3, so I go down 3, right 2. That's enough to draw your line. I'm going to go down 3, right 2 one more time, just to make it a little bit easier. These lines always have arrows on the end of them because they continue forever. Number 13. Need to solve for y. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract my 4x. So negative 3y equals negative 4x plus 12. Divide by negative 3. Y equals a negative 4 over a negative 3 is a positive 4/3 x. And a positive 12 divided by negative 3 is a minus 4. Slope is 4/3. Y-intercept is a negative 4. Go down 4 and put a dot. And then up 4, right 3. And draw your line. Okay, number 14, same thing. We've got to solve for y. So I'm going to subtract my x. 2y equals negative x plus 8. Divide everybody by 2. The see, that's going to give me a negative 1 over 2x plus 4. My slope is a negative 1/2. My y-intercept is the 4. I'm going to go up 4 and put my dot. Down 1, right 2. I'm going to go again. Draw your line. Okay, number 15, I'm solving for y. So I'm going to subtract the 4x. Negative y equals negative 4x. I don't really want to put a plus 0, so I'm dot. I need to divide by negative 1. That'd be a positive 4x. This is not the weird guy, and he is not the super freak, because he has a y and he has an x. So he is not weird in any way. His slope is a 4 because that's the guy with the x. His y-intercept just happens to be a 0. So I go to 0 to start and put a dot, and then I go up 4, right 1. Okay, number 16. This is one of the weird ones. So you have to decide if this is the weird one or if this is the super freak. This is just the weird one because I can solve for y. The only thing I have to do here is divide by 3. So y equals negative 2. Remember, it's the super freak where all his stuff is undefined. This guy's just kind of weird. Now this negative 2, is he your slope or is he your y-intercept? He can't be your slope because my slope is always with the x. I don't even have an x here. So this negative 2 is my y-intercept, which causes your slope to be 0. Because you could write this as y equals 0x minus 2. I'm going to go down to negative 2 and put a dot. Slope of 0, what does that look like? That is a horizontal line all day long. So this is the weird one. He's your horizontal line. Slope of 0. You should know what's coming. Now this is the super freak. The reason you're going to know he's the super freak is because your job is to solve for y, and you don't even have a y to solve for. So you're going to solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 5. This is the only time you ever solve for x. Your slope and your y-intercept, what are they for the super freak? They are both undefined. Well, we've talked about this. What does a slope that's undefined look like? Undefined. Can't stand on it. Makes it a vertical line. So I'm going to go draw a vertical line. But I have to draw him where all of my x's will equal a negative 5. This is the only time you get to go on the x-axis. You're going to go to negative 5 and put a dot. Now you're going to draw a vertical line through that dot. On this line, all my x's will be a negative 5. The reason that your y-intercept is undefined is because your y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Well, this line right here will never cross the y-axis, and so that's why his y-intercept is undefined. Remember, these always go hand in hand. Making changes to a graph. Describe the difference between the graph of line A and line B. Well, they're already solved for y. What do they have in common? Well, they have the same slope. So they will both rise 2 and run 1. But what is the difference from here to here? Well, his y-intercept is a negative 3. And his y-intercept is a positive 1. So if we started at this line, how is this line different? It shifts up 4. Now where did I get the 4 from? Well, if my y-intercept is starting at negative 3, but then this one, the y-intercept is a 1, I'm shifting up 4. Starting at negative 3, and then the next line is going to start at a positive 1. So that's a shift up 4. Number 2, how is line A different than line B? Well, they have the same slope. So the difference must be in their y-intercept. So what's the y-intercept of line A? And the answer there is 0. And what's the y-intercept of line B? And the answer there is a 2. So if my first line's here for the y-intercept and my second line's here, then the graph is going to shift up 2 from 0 to 2. Okay? Are the slopes the same on this problem? And the answer is no. One's a positive 3 and one's a negative 3. If you'll notice, their y-intercepts are the same. So I'm going to say same y-intercept. Slope changes from, starts out as positive and goes to negative. So that means it changes from uphill to downhill. Does the steepness change? The answer there is no. The first graph is up 3, right 1, and the second graph is down 3, right 1. So they have the same steepness. One just is uphill and one is downhill. So then this is the on your own. So we'll walk through these two as just two different examples. So state the slope and the y-intercept in graph. So for part A, I need to solve for y, so I'm going to subtract 2x. Divide by -6. That would be a positive 1/3 minus 2. Now it says state the slope and the y-intercept. So my slope is a 1/3 and my y-intercept is a -2. So to graph that, I go down 2 and then up 1, right 3. For part B, there's nothing to do. I can't solve for y, so that should tell you that this is the super freak. And for the super freak, his slope and his y-intercept are both undefined. So you should know that we're talking about a vertical line at 5. So on the x-axis, I go to 5 and I draw a vertical line. It's the only time you can go on the x-axis.